94.3 Radio 1. We are the official radio partners for Prithvi Theatre Festival 2018. I'm really happy and honoured to be with Naseeruddin Shah and Ratna Pathak Shah before the premiere of The Truth. Hi sir, always wonderful to talk to you.
Hello, thanks very much. Hello everybody.
Hi ma'am, how are you?
Hello.
Just a bit of a background on the script. I believe it's written by a French playwright and then it was translated by an English playwright.
The English person is Christopher Hampton, who's a playwright in his own right, and he's also a very astute translator. He translates a lot of French plays into English. The French writer is Florian Zeller, who also wrote the play called The Father, which we performed last year at the Prithvi for a month and at the NCP, and performed it again this year. The Father was a very intense, somewhat disturbing play. This is absolutely the opposite. This is very frothy and funny and light-hearted.
Is that one of the reasons you chose to direct it?
Absolutely. Father really wrung us out quite a bit. So we needed something to think about with some pleasure and some lightness. Unfortunately, it didn't quite pan out like that. Doing a comedy is not a pleasurable occasion. It is a painful process for the people who are in it. The audience has a great time, but the actors really have to suffer. Getting comedy to sound right, I've discovered, is about the most difficult thing that I know of.
Is comic timing the reason she's saying what she's saying? I mean, the difficulty of getting the timing right.
No. It's just as a craft, as part of the acting job, it's very difficult to make people laugh. It's very easy to make people cry. Even fake tears can produce an emotional resonance in a viewer. But to be funny, you've got to not find yourself funny. That's very important. And the greatest example of that is Mr. Chaplin, who you see performing with complete earnestness all the time, and yet he's absolutely hilarious. And timing has a lot to do with it. The repartee has a lot to do with it. The way you stage the scenes have a lot to do with it. And if the actors start finding themselves funny, and that's a big temptation, then the whole business tends to go overboard.
Very well said. There's a quote from Voltaire, which is part of all the promotional and marketing material. So would you tell us the significance of that vis-a-vis the truth?
Well, the truth is about truth via lies and lies via truth. So it's a really murky territory. And Voltaire, it's the kind of attitude that seems to find great favor today in our world without too many moral signposts, where we are supposed to do what we really want to do and what we really enjoy doing. Then all the ethics of living together, hurting other people, friendship, marriage, all these relationships become a bit on shifty ground if you don't have anything solid to hold on to. Our generation, the generations before us, certainly had that kind of a solid foundation. This new generation is living their lives on quicksand. So what does that really mean? That is what interested me about this play. And Voltaire's quote fits in very nicely, because lie is very virtuous when it does good.
And in fact, the Hindi cinema is also...
This seems to be the motto of our politicians at the moment. Everywhere, all over the world, we are being asked to accept lies and question truth as fake news. So, this whole business of lying and truth and all that is becoming so complicated in this day and age.
And even kitschy Hindi cinema used to have ke matlab sachai jhoot se kisi ka bhala ho jaye and things like that. So in that aspect, it's quite timeless. So who came up on the script first? Was it you or was it Mrs. Shah?
It was Ratna who discovered it. I was on the lookout for other things that Florian Zeller had written, because I consider The Father one of the most brilliantly written pieces I've ever read. And so we learnt of a play called The Mother, which is as disturbing as The Father, apparently weirder than The Father. And so, trawling through the internet, Ratna discovered this play.
No, actually, I was at the National Theatre, at the bookshop at the National Theatre. I'd gone to see a play, and I was looking at the Florian Zeller section, hoping to find The Mother, and I came upon this, and I opened it, and I sort of flipped through the first 3 pages, and I was hooked. So I bought it right there and then, and went back home and read it. And yeah, it seemed just right. On top of everything, it had just 4 characters, just what we want.
Now, I'm given to understand that you're actually premiering at the festival, but you go on for a longer run. You do a month's run.
Yeah, we start the month's run from the 20th of November till the 16th of December. That's 4 weeks, which is something I've always wanted to do. And luckily for me, Kunal kept saying, why don't you do a run of a play? I was terribly busy with movies and so on at that time, and also I didn't think any of our plays could sustain a run for a month because they're somewhat of a serious nature, most of them. But when I hit upon The Father, and Father Paresh Rawal happened to give me, I thought this is a play which is not going to be easy to do a one-off show of. This has to be done in a long run because it's so demanding emotionally that you can't expect the actors, the emotions to kick in and kick out when you need to. You have to be, I don't mean you become the characters, any of that kind of nonsense, but you just stay with that text continuously for a month, and the more you engage with it, the more you absorb it. That is why I read The Father for a month, and I was lucky to have a team who was willing to, stand by me and do it with me, giving up other work sometimes. And so I want to do that with this again, and I want to continue doing this, in fact.
Is that the reason why, ma'am, you've double cast 3 of the roles, isn't it?
All the other roles apart from Naseer's are double cast because really we cannot, all of us, be expected to give up that kind of time. Everyone has to earn livings, and the theatre unfortunately doesn't allow us to focus only on the theatre. But it's such a huge learning experience for actors that lots of people do want to participate in a play like this. And then this becomes a way of incorporating more people, doing more shows regularly. The strain on Naseer is terrific because he's going to be there performing every night, but he seems to be willing to take it. So,
well, Arghya Lahiri met me with the refrain saying everybody is double cast, perhaps even you, between Naseer and Shah. Apparently your friend Benjamin Glani said that once.
Yes, he was right. I would have loved Ben to attempt doing this part, but Ben has gotten fatigued with the theatre and he doesn't want to do any more. He's kind of, he's willing to go into the shadows now.
We will tempt him out, don't worry. Sometime.
It's like batting like Rahul Dravid, not like Sehwag and Tendulkar where you come in and hit the sixes. You've got to be at it, doggedly so when you're doing a long run.
Yeah, Rahul Dravid is my favourite cricketer, incidentally. I admire the man tremendously, not only for his playing abilities, for the way he's comported himself, for the dignity he's shown in every situation that I've seen, and of course the beauty of his batting, his fielding. I mean, he even kept wicket on occasion. I think he's a tremendous man, and if my work can be compared to him in any way, that's a great honour. But yes, and it's not a strain. It's physically tiring, I admit, but it's such fun. Every night it's like having played a great set of tennis.
Very well put. Let's come to the cast. I mean, it's a wonderful bunch you've got here. You have Meher Mistry, you have Avantika, you have Gaurav Sharma. I don't know too much about him. And of course, Arghya. Would you take me through what they play?
So, Arghya and Gaurav are doing Zed. The play is about 2 couples. There's Casey and Avan, and Zed and Loveleen. And of course, Casey and Loveleen are having an affair, and all of them are impacted by that affair, obviously. So, Zed is being played by Gaurav and Arghya, and Loveleen is being played by Meher and Shruti Vyas, who's not here today because she's not well. And Avantika and I will both double cast the wife, Avan. So, that's all I want to tell you. Sorry.
No, I'm not even going to ask for more. And infidelity in that aspect has lent itself to both tragedy as well as comedy. And I imagine there are some peculiar situations in this one.
Yes, because the moment the first scene begins to unfold, you know what's going to happen, what's going to transpire sooner or later. But the way it transpires is what is delightful about it in the writing. It has the form of a farce, a regular farce, where funny things are said a lot of the time with double meanings and so on. But what is really original about it is the way the characters react on discovering what their partners have been up to. That is what's really original about it, and that is what really drew us to this play. If it had been just and this play will amuse the audience certainly, but I'm sure it'll also make many people shift uncomfortably in their seats because there are dark areas in every relationship, and it's kind of it'll be a shock of recognition to an extent, whether they admit it or not.
Okay, now let's come to the festival itself. Kunal was feeding me a bit of history and he said, 40 years of Prithvi Theatre, and I believe Mr. Om Puri and yourself, how many years has it been since you first took to the Prithvi stage? Was it Majma? Was that?
Majma was the company Om had formed. which did the production of Udhvast Dharamshala by Govind Deshpande, a very celebrated Marathi play which he had translated into Hindi. And Udhvast Dharamshala was the first official performance when the theatre opened. But I did several rehearsals in the theatre before it was complete. In fact, Jennifer was kind enough to allow me to do that. She knew my love for theatre, and so I've seen Prithvi grow from infancy up to middle age, so to say. Life begins at 40, so I take it Prithvi will have a longer innings to go, and I really wish it does and continues in the way it's been doing, which has been to act as a haven for young theatre people who can't afford bigger spaces. It's I can't express my gratitude, and I'm sure to Prithvi, and I'm sure that's the case with many other of my contemporaries and young theatre people who've come later.
Your earliest memories of the theatre as well as the festival?
I was away at the NSD while this the whole opening and everything was happening. This is 79, so I was away at the NSD at that time. But I remember coming back and going to the theatre, this incomplete kind of space, and Jennifer walking us around. I don't think I'd ever seen a theatre like that in my whole life. I hadn't travelled abroad, maybe I'd been once somewhere, but certainly I hadn't seen a space of this nature built so clearly with the idea of experimental theatre work, not just as a place for performance, but as a place for creation and meeting ground for all kinds of theatre people. It used to be called the Prithvi Theatre Workshop for a while, and it really was intended to be like that, a workshop which made it possible for people to come together and try different things without worrying too much about the money. And that is such an incredible fact by itself, that money is not the first criterion when you decide to do something. Otherwise, that's where you start and stop a lot of the time. 5 friends can get together and say, really, I want to do this play, I want to do this play. I don't have the money to book the theatre. That's the end of the story. Whereas Prithvi says, no, you want to do the play, come and do it. We'll find a way to make it happen. That's how it started. That was the mood. That 1 rupee per person went up to 10 rupees per seat. And things like that. This was unusual for that time and is certainly very unusual today. There's nobody willing to do anything without money and oodles of money today. So what do young people do? Prithvi was, as Naseer said, a complete haven for us, as was Chabildas when it existed. And in a sense, Prithvi wiped out Chabildas, to say it in a crude way. But it sort of took it in another direction. That's another way to look at it. Because Chabildas packed up after that slowly, and the school authorities started giving them trouble and wanting to shut down the place there. So Prithvi was one place where nobody would throw us out. It was our space. We just loved that feeling.
Well, I don't know if you're going to be there on opening night, because you might probably have a tech rehearsal at the same time. But but again, some huge history there, because it's 73 years since Prithviraj Kapoor's Diwar happened, and Sunil Shanbag is directing his adaptation of it, because that one I believe was 4.5 hours long. So just a bit of that. I mean, Prithviraj Kapoor's legacy.
Well, I haven't been fortunate enough to see any of his work, and I don't think I've met too many people who have. Though I do know that people like Goga Kapoor and Pinchu Kapoor used to be part of the company. Zohra Sehgal was part of the company. Shammi Sahab, I believe, acted in some place. So did Rajji. About Shashi, I don't know. I don't think he did. They were plays with a social conscience. They read a little dated today, but they were plays with a social conscience, and they were starring vehicles for Mr. Prithviraj Kapoor. They were written with him in mind, because he always played the central parts, and he could fill the stage. He was so enormous. But I don't think that those plays without major adaptation would be able to stand today. But what I was going to add to what Ratna was saying about Prithvi Theatre is that it's probably the only theatre in the world which has been built with personal money. There was no financier, there was no industrialist, there was no corporate behind it. Shashi Sahab put in his own hard-earned money to build this place, and it's the only theatre in the world which is built with altruistic motives, not to generate finance, and that makes it unique.
So what happens when you act at rehearsal? So who directs? Is there no directors? Loose.
Well, we're co-directing, so somebody keeps an eye open, and then there's Argo, whose opinion I trust very much. So theatre is really quite a collaborative medium, and the amount of contribution that everyone on the team makes, it's hard to quantify. Ki isne zyada kiya, isne kam kiya. The point is that if that kind of contribution is not forthcoming, then the play suffers big time. So we've been very lucky that we have had a bunch of really hardworking and enthusiastic people on the team. I'm deeply grateful to Nasir for the kind of input he has been giving to the actors particularly. So yeah, it's the way we put together our plays most of the time. We read a lot, we try out all kinds of things, we muddle along, we take help whenever we can and wherever we get it from. And eventually it comes together.
Lovely. I can't wait to see the truth, and all the best to the two of you. My parting question is, what are Diwali plans in the Shah household? I mean, do the boys and Hiba come over, or is it not a big thing? Eid, Diwali?
Yeah, Eid and Diwali both are big things, but this year we're going to be on stage on Diwali night. So they'll all come over after the show is over, and it'll be a late party, I think.
What normally happens on Diwali? I mean, do you guys do cards or food or what?
What happens normally? Usually food and...
For one thing, the cleaning of the house, the window washing and so on. I don't do that, of course. And we put up a few lights and things, and crackers I'm not too much fond of, and neither is Ratna. But the children come over and we just sit around and chat, have...
Most Diwalis we go off to our farm, and then that's really, really pretty, because that dark night and all the diyas and all the fireworks without the noise, it's quite beautiful. Here, I'm afraid in Bombay, it's hard to enjoy Diwali with the noise.
What did you think of his autobiography? I quite enjoyed it. Are you egging him on to write more?
Yes, so are a lot of people, including me. But he does things on his own time, so he will. And yes, I liked his autobiography very, very much. I thought it was extremely readable, though I knew a lot of these stories.
So are you writing some more?
Yes, it'll take me a while. I have started. Firstly, I've just translated it into Hindi, and that should be coming out into Hindustani rather. It's a mixture of Hindi and Urdu, and it'll be coming out in December. Penguin is bringing it out, and it's called Aur Phir Ek Din, which is and then one day translated. And the sequel to and then one day I have started on it, but it's going to take a while.
All the best. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Cheers.